everybody. Welcome back. MikesMMAPicks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show. It's Fight Morning. We're back. Thanks to MMA Oddsbreaker as well as BetDSI for hosting. We've got 15 fights, UFC Fight Island 3. Let's burn through this breakdown. First up, always nice to start with a high caliber fighter like Nathaniel Wood taking on John Castaneda. John Castaneda, 17-4 record, impressive record. Got to see him on the Contender Series, though he's been around the block, a combate fighter. He's coming in at plus 310, 6,700 in DraftKings. And then on the other side of the fight, you've got Nathaniel Wood, Natty Wood, 9,500 minus 410. I love what Brad Pickett has done with Nathaniel Wood. Say what you want about the Dodson fight. He got caught in that matchup, was looking the part, and I think this is going to be a showcase fight for Nathaniel Wood later this evening. 16-4 record. Was had a really tough time with Johnny Eduardo early on in his debut, but we've seen since he's gained some confidence, and I'm interested to see how he returns after the Dodson fight. Maybe a bit tentative, something to consider when rostering lineups. Give me Nathaniel Wood. Remember, scared money don't make money. Next up, we have Ramazan Emeev at 170 pounds. He's actually fought at 185. We got to see him fight Sam Alvey a few years ago. Taking on Nicholas Stolze. Nicholas Stolze, 6,800 in DK, plus 300 underdog, 27 years of age. German kickboxer fighting out of SBG Ireland. Looks flashy out there, has also locked up a few submissions in some of the fights that I've seen. He's taking on a combat sambo veteran in Emeev, who has a 68.5-inch reach, has a kicking game, is nasty out there, man. He's one tough hombre. The only issue I have is you look at his last fight and it almost looked as if he wasn't prepared to take on someone like Anthony Martin. Got grinded out. Doesn't have to worry about getting grinded out in this spot. I see it Emeev being too much for Stolze here. Bigger octagon. Fight may take a little bit longer than expected. It is expected to go to a decision at minus 260. Give me Emeev to get the victory there. Third fight of the night. We've got a hotly debated contest where we have Whittaker-Till taking on Pannie Kianzad. Kianzad has spent some time in other promotions fighting grizzled veterans. Taking on a grizzled veteran here in Whittaker-Till. Whittaker-Till, 7,800 in DK, plus 125. Underdog currently. Kianzad 8,400 minus 155. Kianzad has some beautiful technical striking. Only issues I've had is when she fights someone who is tougher than she is, somebody who can dig deeper into their well and is physically stronger, that's when she runs into big problems. And in this spot, Correia is now 37 years of age. I failed last time out, fading Correia against Sijara Eubanks. I thought I had a good spot there, and Correia just wouldn't go away. And this spot, that is something to be concerned about, but I keep going back to Correia's. You watch the tape on her, and she looks like a mess out there. She's very emotional. She doesn't implement a ground game. She's got a sturdy base, so you don't expect to be able to take her down. I don't think Kianzad is going to do that. That's not a big part of her game. Kianzad has shown some solid takedown defense in the past. I like Kianzad with the reach advantage here, and every interview I've seen, she's known about this fight for quite some time. It's going to be in the larger octagon. I think we're going to see Kianzad come in here and surprise a lot of people and look solid. I have Kianzad winning this fight via decision. Next up, fourth fight of the night, we've got Tanner Boser. Quick turnaround after his win over Felipe Lins. We were on Tanner Boser last time out. Spectacular early knockout, though he typically goes to decision. Tanner Boser, 8,900, minus 275. A lot of people were avoiding Tanner Boser in DK because he typically throws leg kicks and uses his solid striking defense and bounces around the cage, doesn't engage much. But he did against Lins. He's taking on Rafael-Pessoa. Pessoa, 10-1. That record is a little deceiving, though, when you go back and watch the tape. 7,300 in DK, plus 220. Underdog, 31 years of age. Big guy. When I was watching his fights and watching the weigh-ins and watching previous weigh-ins, he usually comes in around 264, 265. And Tanner Boser is going to be giving up about 30 pounds here inside the octagon. Pessoa on the feet reminds me of Tim Sylvia in a sense. Watch his legs, the way his lower body is composed. He is going to look in and charge at Boser. Boser is a much more technical striker out there. Pessoa supposedly has a black belt and haven't seen it put to use. If he gets Boser on the ground, that's going to be a really tall task. Boser has very good takedown defense, and his evasiveness is really incredible. Both of these guys have a mutual opponent in Cyril Gane. You could see at least Boser was hanging in that fight and making a case for himself, although he was getting beaten. I'm going to be picking Tanner Boser here to come out with a unanimous victory. Next up, we have another hotly debated contest where we have Movsar Evloev taking on Mike-Grundy. Mike-Grundy, 7,100 in DK. I'm expecting a high ownership of Mike-Grundy out there today in Fantasyland, plus 155 underdog. He is a freestyle wrestler taking on Evloev, 12-0 record, 9,100 in DK, minus 195 favorite. Evloev comes from a Greco-Roman background, Russian fighter. One of the key differences between the two different types of wrestling is that in freestyle, you're allowed to attack the legs. Greco-Roman, anything below the waist is outlawed. Evloev, though, has a solid, competent striking game. He's comfortable on the feet, spends most of his time on the ground, has solid cardio. People were giving him problems with the Barzola fight, that he started to fade late in that spot. I agree with that, though. You look at Barzola. Barzola has typically a great gas tank. Grundy is more of a 1-2 fighter. You don't see him put many combinations together. There hasn't been a necessity to do that. If you go beyond the Narimani fight, he usually gets fights onto the ground, and he has a lot of submission victories. Also, in interviews lately, he's mentioned that he's planning on finding the neck of Evloev. That'll be interesting. Evloev spent this camp at American Top Team. If you watched his Instagram and other social media outlets, this fight, both fighters have known about it for quite some time. back last fall it was announced that this fight was going to happen, but it got canceled because Grundy pulled out because of an injury. Evloev, I see him getting the better of the stand-up exchanges here. As far as wrestling goes, I could see Grundy taking Evloev down, but then once that happens, I don't see Grundy doing much with it. So the longer this fight plays out, I suspect we'll see Evloev pull away and start to show his versatility out there. So I'm going to be picking Movsar Evloev to get the victory this evening. Next up, heavyweights. We have a former middleweight in Jake Collier taking on Tom Aspinall. Aspinall, 7-2 record, 8,800 and DK minus 290. This line has widened significantly since weigh-ins. You saw I posted that Collier weighs 79 pounds more than he did in his UFC debut back in 2014 against Miranda. And at light heavyweight, he looked like that was the weight class for him. So I have no idea why he decided to put on so much extra weight, considering this is his profession. This is what he does for a living, right? So unless he knows something that we don't know, I don't know, man. He looks like he's carrying a lot of excess weight out there. 7,400 in DK for Collier, plus 225, 31 years of age. So he's still pretty young. I was watching footage of Aspinall, and one of the highlights that the commentators were talking about was that he sparred with Tyson Fury. To me, that means he probably got the shit beat out of him by Tyson Fury. Aspinall doesn't look like a world beater out there. And the more tape I watched, I was not impressed. Problem is, Collier is doing himself a huge disservice here. I would be, initially, before they hit the scales, I was like, you know what? Collier's a live dog here. And he can go deep into fights. He's, even though he lost to Devin Clark, you could see that he was attempting reversals, and Aspinall supposedly a black belt, one of Darren Till's training partners. But I'm not a huge believer in Aspinall. And initially, I was planning on picking Collier for the upset, but the way things panned out on the scale, I can't in good faith make that pick. So Aspinall does have quick hands, huge for the division, although they both came in right around the same weight. This fight's not expected to go to a decision. I think that may be the safer play here. I will be picking Aspinall to get the victory, but I don't have much confidence in Aspinall's abilities. Next up, we have a veteran in Jesse Ronson coming in upper weight class at 170, taking on Nicholas Dalby. Nicholas Dalby, well known to UFC fans as well. 35 years of age now for Dalby, and Ronson 34. So they're both getting up there. Dalby's coming in with a significant reach advantage here. Also should have a significant size advantage and strength advantage. 9,200 for Dalby, minus 255. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 170. Ronson wasn't done any favors if you look at his matchups in the UFC. When he made his first run, he was put through the meat grinder, and also spent some time in PFL. I expect we're going to see a very hungry Jesse Ronson. He does not want to let this opportunity go to waste. Though, it sucks when your heart is in it, and then you meet an immovable object in there. And Dalby is tough as nails. I expect Dalby to shut Ronson down the longer this fight goes. We've known about Dalby's personal struggles outside of the octagon. He seems to have put things together here, and I like what I see in Nicholas Dalby. Impressive win over Oliveira last time at Alex Oliveira. So give me Nicholas Dalby in that spot. Next up, we're headed to the lightweight division, although we did have a fighter here come in at 160 pounds. We've got Francisco Trinaldo, the veteran, 41 years of age, 8,500 in DK. That is a bad price on him. Minus 130 at the betting window now. This line has been closing, taking on Jay Herbert. Jay Herbert, 7,700 plus 100 right now. You watch the footage on Herbert, lightning quick, goes to the body, can change levels, great cardio. He has a loss to the next fighter. The next fight we'll be discussing, a fighter, Mr. McKee. This spot, though, Francisco Trinaldo, southpaw, Brazilian kickboxer, been around the block. He's been in there with the who's who. With Trinaldo, he's one of the toughest outs in the UFC, and although he missed weight here, it's hard to pick against him. He's fighting a newcomer who, although quickness may be a difference maker in this spot, and we may see Herbert come in here and just showcase the speed and the timing. I have to go with the fighter who's the more proven veteran, like a solid oak tree out there in the storms, Francisco Trinaldo, to be just a little bit too much in this spot and squeak out a decision victory. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 150. You know what fight is not expected to go to a decision is our next bout, the 9th bout of the card. We've got Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev dropping from 185 pounds to 170. I'll be honest, he looks like he could fight at light heavyweight as well. Taking on Mr. McKee here. Mr. McKee, 10-2-1. Lowest price fighter on the card from a DraftKings perspective at 6,400. Plus 685 underdog. You look at fights that are not expected to go to a decision. In all the years I've been capping fights, have yet to see a welterweight fight that is expected to finish at over minus 650, and this is minus 675 currently to finish inside the distance. Chimaev, 9,800, minus 1285 at the betting window. Now, 26 years of age, he should come in here and steamroll this kid. What it comes down to, he's got a few different ways to get it done. He's fighting McKee, who looked. The kid's name is Skeletor. His nickname's Skeletor. You watch the way he fights. He's a 155-pound fighter who's coming up to 170 pounds. And Chimaev should steamroll him in this spot. So let's make it short and sweet. Inside the distance win for Chimaev. Next up, 10th fight of the card, Alex Oliveira. Cowboy coming in here taking on Peter Sobotta. Peter Sobotta, haven't seen or heard from him in quite some time. Sobotta, 7,500 plus 135 underdog, 33 years of age. Both of these fighters are starting to get up there. 8,700 in DK for Alex Oliveira, 21-8 and 1 record. These losses are starting to rack up for Oliveira. He's really putting a lot of time in the octagon, and I'll be honest, I have a tough time trusting Oliveira these days. You never are sure exactly what you're going to get, but when he pours it on, he can get it done in a variety of different fashions. I wish we could see a Donald Cerrone-Alex Oliveira rematch before they call it quits here. This fight, though, Sobotta, deceptively good ground game. Oliveira, the longer fighter, bounces around. I think we are going to see this fight takes place for the most part on the feet, and I see Oliveira getting the job done. I think his stand-up is just going to be a little too much for Sobotta here, and this fight is expected to end inside the distance. At 8,700, might be a little sneaky play for Oliveira in DraftKings. Next up, we have another fight that's expected to end inside the distance, where we have Paul Craig taking on Kianzad-Correia. Antigulov 8,200 in DK, plus 105 underdog. Both of these fighters are allergic to seeing the scorecards in their matchups. Paul Craig, I was impressed with his loss to Jimmy Crute a few fights ago. I was on Jimmy Crute, and one thing about Paul Craig is you need to get him out of there because he isn't going to go away on his own. Paul Craig, $8,000 in DraftKings, minus 135. I think we'll see very high ownership of Craig here, 12-4-1 record. Likes to go for submissions, but we've also seen some development in his stand-up game recently. Has this legitimate reach and length. You watch his fights, he's been putting it all together. The problem that I don't like about him, and you watch certain style of fighters, people who enjoy being on their back and they choose to be on their back in fights, although that may be a strength for them, if you're paying attention to how the judges see things, it's not a good look. And I could potentially see Paul Craig spending some time on his back in this spot. I'll be picking Paul Craig, though, to outlast Antigulov and come away with a finish by way of submission. Next up, we're on the main card, and we have a very intriguing matchup. Our 12th fight of the evening, where we have Carla Esparza taking on Marina Rodriguez. Rodriguez 8,600 in DK, minus 180 at the betting window. This line has widened significantly. Full disclosure, I had to play on Marina Rodriguez the first time this bout was matched at a much better line than we currently see this. Esparza, 16-6 record, 32 years of age, 7,600 for Esparza, plus 150 underdog. I think a lot of people out there are overthinking this fight. We have the Muay Thai of Rodriguez, the wrestling of Esparza, the takedown defense of Rodriguez. If it does not hold up, you can chalk this up to Esparza walking away with the decision victory. I don't have a play here on this fight this time around, but the larger octagon, more time to prepare for this matchup. I think we're going to see Rodriguez with a significant size, reach advantage, and also she's been in there with a few wrestlers over her last few fights, and I believe that this gives her an opportunity to shore up some of those holes. I don't like the minus 180. And another thing is you can't trust what you haven't seen. But she seems to be getting a little bit better each time out as far as getting back up and working to defend takedowns. Esparza, that's the only way she gets this done. She was going to get lit up on the feet if she can't get this fight to the ground. So give me Marina Rodriguez to win. And this is another interesting fight from a DraftKings perspective because you have the relentless takedowns of Esparza and the beautiful Muay Thai of Rodriguez. So somebody's going to score fairly well. I don't see Rodriguez getting completely nullified for 3 rounds, but we'll see. No play for me in this fight. Next up, 13th fight of the card. Fabricio Werdum taking on Alexander Gustafsson. The Gustafsson who retired recently and put his gloves inside the octagon after getting submitted by Anthony Smith. Now, you've got Gustafsson who should come in here and try to stay at range and piece Werdum up. You look at what Olenek did, and Olenek is not a very competent striker by any means, but he was able to catch Werdum and make Werdum look ancient. You look at somebody coming off of the juice. There you have it, 42 years of age. By the way, look at how many fighters there are here that are over 35. It's incredible on this card. 6,900 for Werdum, plus 250. You look around and you see the lines out there for props, and Werdum by sub is always a possibility. One of the best jiu-jitsu games in all of mixed martial arts. The question is, how does he get to Gustafsson's hips in this large octagon? I see this fight not going the distance, and Werdum getting chewed apart at length, getting frustrated, and he's already stated that this is going to be his last fight in the UFC. Who knows if it's going to be a retirement fight? We'll see. By the way, I wouldn't be surprised to see upwards of 4, even 5 fighters on this card retire after this fight. You have a bunch of fighters who have given their heart and soul to MMA and martial arts. So give me Gustafsson to win that matchup. But again, let's say Gustafsson comes out here, gets subbed. I could see him retiring again. Next up, 14th fight on the card. We've got Mauricio Shogun Rua taking on Little Nog. Little Nog, 23-9. 7,200 in DK for Little Nog. I expect Nogueira to be a popular fighter in DraftKings, plus 150. Knockout's always live for Nogueira. Nogueira, 44 years of age. You look at the social media accounts, and he's made it clear that he's done after this fight. Shogun, 6 years. Nogueira's junior, 38 years old, 9,000 in DraftKings, minus 190 at the betting window for Shogun. Shogun has the more well-rounded game. Last time I saw Nogueira fight in person was in 2007 against Sokoju when he got knocked out in less than a minute. And after the fight, I had Caesars walking around, and I ran into the Nogueira brothers. One thing that shocked me was, these guys in fight years and just spending time on the mat, they are ancient. And I know Shogun is also, he's been in a tremendous amount of wars, especially you look at how he performed against Craig. That was not a good look to get lit up against the fence in that spot. But I just think that Shogun has more tools. This is going to bring the best out of both fighters here, and I don't see Shogun wilting the longer this fight goes. I think we're going to see, there's always a possibility of Nogueira knocking out Shogun with a left hand in the pocket. But more likely outcome that I expect is Shogun to win this fight, possibly by decision. He's just a better fighter, has more tools, 6 years younger, and although his chin, he's faced a tremendous amount of adversity inside the octagon. I think that Nogueira's already announced that he's going to retire. You are going to get a great effort out of Nogueira. That's I don't doubt that, but I just think that Shogun's got this one for the third time. Trilogy fight here. Main event of the evening, 15th fight. Wanted to try to bang these out as fast as we can, but also be somewhat thorough in these breakdowns. Robert Whittaker taking on Darren Till, 185 pounds, 27 years of age for Till, 7,900 in DK, plus 105 underdog. Robert Whittaker, 8,300, minus 135 at the betting window, 29 years old. For Whittaker, 1.5-inch reach advantage for Darren Till. You watch the trajectory of these fighters, and I do see that the 10 rounds that Robert Whittaker endured and overcame against Yoel Romero, they were that was a life-changing 10 rounds. Darren Till, though, we've also seen he's been brutally knocked out by Jorge Masvidal and was got run through by Tyron Woodley. Has faced some stiff competition through the years. Robert Whittaker also coming off of the brutal knockout against Israel Adesanya. By the way, I think Costa is as live of a dog as you're going to get when those guys fight in September. It's just got a long wait for that one. This fight, though, I'm going to say this. Darren Till, one of his biggest problems is that he handcuffs himself by being inactive. And during fights, his output or lack thereof is a real cause for concern. And there's no way Robert Whittaker is going to sit at range and let himself get picked apart. So I suspect that Whittaker is going to lunge in like he typically does. He could potentially get caught. That's a real possibility in this spot, especially considering what's happened to him recently. But more likely than not, I see Robert Whittaker. He has so many tools here. He's the better fighter. He has the ability to keep opponents honest by getting inside and also threatening. He could potentially threaten the takedown here. Problem is Till is going to sit back and he does not get frustrated. There's going to be no crowd noise impeding his ability to stick to a well-disciplined game plan. I'm going to be picking Robert Whittaker to win this fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if this fight went to a decision. I think if you were able to get in on Whittaker, minus 110, minus 120-ish range, that may be a good spot. Although, the other side of the fight, Darren Till is a live dog here. All it takes is one shot from Till. That left hand could land at any point, and it is a dangerous, dangerous fight. The last thing I will say about this matchup, Darren Till, even if he wins, though, he hasn't put up great DraftKings scores. That Cerrone fight is really the only fight that he put up a solid score. So give me Robert Whittaker to win this fight and get back on track. Though if he loses here, this is somebody who has battled multiple health issues, battled depression, and is a family man. I would not be surprised to see Robert Whittaker retire if he lost this fight tonight. That being said, I am picking him to win, and
he, in my eyes, is the more well-rounded, better fighter, and has shown that he those fights with Romero, you want to see somebody who's battle-tested, somebody who will do whatever it takes. He's done whatever it takes. So if he stays conscious, if Robert Whittaker stays conscious, he wins this fight. Have a great day, everybody. Great fight day. We're back Saturday. You can follow me at MMA Oddsbreaker, also on Twitter at MikesMMAPicks. Go get what's yours, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. We're getting after it today, folks. Your time. Your time. Let's do it.